Millionaire said a black waitress should know her place, then realized she owned the building. He thought he was untouchable aloud. Entitled Millionaire used to snapping his fingers and watching people obey. The night he walked into that upscale restaurant, he saw a black waitress and decided she needed to know her place. He mocked her, belittled her in front of everyone, and made it clear he believed money and skin color gave him power. But what he didn't know was that the woman he was humiliating wasn't just a waitress. She held something much bigger than he could ever imagine. By the end of the night, his world and his place would be shattered. So, what happens when the person you look down on is actually the one above you? Her name was Maya, and most people only ever noticed the tray in her hands. 6 days a week, she moved through the polished aisles of an upscale downtown restaurant, weaving between tables dressed in white linen and crystal glasses. To the regulars, she was the black waitress with the quiet smile, the one who remembered their orders, who apologized when the kitchen was slow, who stayed calm when others were rude. No one ever asked what she did when she hung up the apron. Outside those glass doors, Maya's world looked very different. Early mornings began with emails to contractors and property managers. Legal documents with her name at the top, rent checks, zoning permits. This was the side no one saw. At 34, after years of sacrifice, she had quietly become the owner of the very building that restaurant occupied, along with several others on the block. She chose to keep working there, not because she needed the tips, but because she liked watching people, learning how they treated those they thought were beneath them. To the staff, she was dependable. To the manager, she was efficient. To the customers, she was invisible. And for the most part, Maya preferred it that way. Staying in the background gave her a front row seat to human nature, the kindness, the entitlement, the prejudice, carefully wrapped in jokes and standards. On the night that would change everything, the restaurant buzzed with its usual Friday energy. Clinking glasses, low laughter, soft jazz from the speakers. Maya tied her apron, clocked in, and scanned the reservation list. One name stood out bold, familiar, and already linked to rumors of arrogance and money. She didn't know yet that this particular guest wasn't just coming for dinner. He was coming to test exactly how far he thought his status on her place could go. The man arrived late, the way people do when they expect the world to wait for them. His name was Ethan Carver, a millionaire developer known in the city for his luxury condos, aggressive deals, and the way he talked about cleaning up neighborhoods. He walked into the restaurant like he owned its expensive suit. Loud cologne, a smirk that said he'd never heard the word no and believed he never would. From the host stand, Maya watched the shift in the room. The manager straightened his tie. The hostess suddenly became overly attentive. Servers whispered his name, half in awe, half in fear. To them, he was a big tip, a powerful client, someone you tolerated even if he crossed lines. Maya was assigned to his table. As she approached, she saw it in his eyes before he said a word. The quick scan, the calculation, the decision. To him, she wasn't a person with a life, responsibilities, or ownership. She was just a black woman in an apron there to serve him. Throughout the evening, Ethan pushed boundaries. He snapped his fingers instead of calling her name. He sighed dramatically when she didn't appear instantly, even though she'd been juggling multiple tables. He made comments, not loud enough for everyone to hear, but loud enough to sting. Remarks about standards, about professionalism, about how some people should be grateful to have any job at all. The manager noticed, but looked away. The other staff heard, but stayed silent. They'd seen versions of this before, rich customers testing how much disrespect they could pour into their service along with the wine. Maya swallowed it, not because she was used to it, though in a way she was, but because she was watching, studying, waiting. Every word he said filed neatly in her memory. Then he escalated. He started speaking to her like she was a problem to be managed, questioning her competence, suggesting maybe someone more experienced should handle his table. At one point, when the kitchen delayed his entree, he leaned back, looked her up and down, and let his contempt show. His tone made it clear, in his mind, she was beneath him by race, by job, by status. The table next to him fell quiet. A couple shifted uncomfortably, eyes flicking between Maya and Ethan. No one spoke up. No one intervened. The air in the room grew tighter, as if everyone felt the line being crossed but had silently agreed that his money outweighed her dignity. The manager pulled Maya aside and told her to be patient, to not take it personally, to remember who he is. It wasn't about right or wrong. It was about business. What the manager didn't know was that this was about business for Maya too. A different kind. As the night went on, Ethan complained about the music, about the lighting, about the table location. He loudly questioned why a place like this didn't have a certain level of people working the floor. His words may have been dressed in coded language, but the message was crystal clear. He thought she should know her place. Maya felt anger coil in her chest, but she kept her expression calm. For years, she had listened to men like him talk about redeveloping neighborhoods, where people who looked like her lived. She'd watched as old tenants were pushed out, as culture was replaced with modernization, as profit became an excuse for erasing lives. Now, one of those men sat in her building, insulting her in a space he assumed he owned. He didn't bother to learn the name on the property records. He didn't know who signed the leases. He had no idea that the person he was talking down to was the one who held the power to decide whether this restaurant, and even his future plans, could stand. By dessert, the tension had turned electric. Staff avoided the table unless necessary. Diners stole glances. Ethan grew more comfortable, more entitled, mistaking everyone's silence for agreement. He believed he was untouchable. And then, casually, between complaints and condescension, he revealed his next big project, a deal that, without knowing it, placed his future directly in Maya's hands. Ethan's arrogance reached its peak when the check arrived. He barely glanced at the bill before tossing his black card onto the table, as if paying was just another performance. Then, staring at Maya, he made one last cutting remark about people like her needing to remember they were lucky to serve success, not live it. The words landed like a slap not just on Maya, but on every silent witness in the room. For a moment, the restaurant felt frozen. Glasses mid-air, forks paused. Conversations cut short. People heard him. People understood exactly what he meant. But the familiar weight of discomfort pressed them back into their silence. Maya picked up the card, her face calm, her hand steady. Inside, a storm raged, years of hearing that same message in different forms, and loans denied. In meetings where her ideas were ignored until repeated by someone white, in the shocked reactions when people realized the owner they were waiting to meet was a black woman, Ethan leaned back, satisfied, believing he had put her in her place. At the register, Maya didn't just process the payment. She printed the receipt, then pulled up a document on the restaurant's system, one the staff rarely saw. The commercial lease, the name of the landlord. Her name, the same name on several properties in Ethan's target neighborhood, the same signature that would be required for any revitalization deal he'd been bragging about all night. When she returned to the table, she didn't just bring the check, she brought the truth. She laid the receipt down, then quietly slid another piece of paper beside it, photocopies from the lease, her name bold at the top. Ethan glanced at it, irritated at first, then confused. His eyes moved between the document and her name tag. Back and forth, again. The realization hit him in slow, humiliating waves. The black waitress he had spent the evening degrading owned the building he was sitting in. And, whether he knew it yet or not, she now held the keys to the future he thought he controlled. For a long second, Ethan just stared. The color drained from his face as his brain tried to rearrange what it thought it knew about the world. His words from earlier about people like her, about knowing their place, suddenly echoed back at him. Exposed for what they were, not confidence, but entitlement, built on the assumption that a black woman could only exist at the bottom. Around him, the restaurant seemed to exhale. Staff inched closer. Diners pretended not to look while absolutely watching. They didn't know every detail, but they understood enough. The man who had spent the evening demeaning a black waitress had just discovered she was the one holding the power he worshipped most ownership. Maya didn't gloat. She didn't raise her voice. She simply explained, in measured, professional terms, that as the building's owner, she had final say over lease renewals, renovation approvals, and new development proposals in the area he'd been bragging about. The room felt smaller as he realized the project he'd boasted about, his next big win, depended on the cooperation of the woman he'd tried to diminish. He mumbled something that sounded like an apology, but it wasn't really about remorse. It was about panic, about lost deals, lost access, a suddenly shaky future. Maya listened, then did what so many black people are forced to do every day. She weighed her anger against the cost of confrontation. She didn't destroy him. She didn't need to. The truth had already done that. She made one decision, though. When his company's proposal eventually crossed her desk, she declined. Not out of spite, but out of principle. She chose instead to partner with developers who respected the community and the people. In it, including those who wore aprons, the restaurant staff never looked at her the same way again. Some apologized privately. Others just started using her name with a different kind of respect. Word spread quietly. The waitress was actually the landlord. But for Maya, the real victory wasn't shocking them. It was proving yet again that worth and power are not defined by how others choose to see you. Still, her story is not a feel-good exception. It's a reminder of a brutal truth. Most people who are talked down to, profiled, or humiliated because of their race don't get the chance to flip the script. They don't secretly own the building. They don't hold the paperwork. They just carry the wound. So the question isn't, what if the person you look down on secretly has power? The real question is, why do we still need hidden power to be treated with basic respect in the first place? If this story made you think even for a moment, ask yourself, in your daily life, whose humanity are you overlooking? And what would it take to see them fully before the paperwork proves you wrong?